What's cracking, everyone? Friedemann Findeisen here from Realistic Songwriting, and I just realized that my lights are way too bright. Let me just turn on the front light. Give me 1 sec. Alexa, mach das Licht aus. How's that? That is way better. Let's go with that instead. Okay, folks. So, welcome. This is Livestream number 105, a little update on the Kickstarter. We are 5 stretch goals in already. It's only been a week, and we have unlocked 5 new component upgrades, which is super exciting. It's been a blast this week. I honestly didn't think we were going to unlock all this stuff so fast, which is why the next stretch goal that we have was the last I had planned for the campaign. And so now we're currently brainstorming together with the community, with the other backers, what we're going to do for the future. And it's looking like we're going to add more cards to the decks. So there's going to be another half deck of 27 more cards, which are going to include tips for writing certain sections, tips on how to write certain songs. So that's currently where we're at. We're still not completely done brainstorming, but that's where we're currently at. We unlocked linen finish boxes. Cards will have linen finish, and the rulebook will have linen finish. The boxes will be upgraded to 2 millimeters thick, so it's going to be a thicker box, more sturdy. And the box will have spot UV, meaning that the logo is going to be shiny and the rest of it is going to be matte. The next upgrade we're unlocking with I think within the next 2 days, I think, is going to be upgrading the card stock. So we're going to have even better card stock. The card stock we have right now is a great card, but, you know, just the best for you guys. So I'm excited, man. Stretch goals are always like Christmas to me, and being the creator here makes it even more fun because it's cool to see that so many people are loving the idea and, you know, want to contribute to it. And that there's a lively community going on here, and everyone's pitching in their ideas for new stretch goals and what should be on those next 28 cards. And, you know, the campaign is far from over. We have 21 more days to go. So that's plenty of time to increase the decks further, to make even better stuff, to do some cool things with it. I have a meeting scheduled for Monday with the Tyler, the guy from Panda Manufacturing. That's the people who manufacture the games. The cards, and we're going to talk more about stretch goals, what else we could add to it to add to the value, so that you guys get a better product when the campaign is over. Okay, so that's about it for now. Let's jump into your guys' questions. And I always forget how short that transition is. Okay, so I should have made it longer. I should have tested this in After Effects before I uploaded this. Take a sip, make sure it takes just long enough so that when the transition is over, I'm not, you know, mid-sip, so to say. Okay, so here we are together. Yeah, there we go. Okay, questions for November 23rd. There we are. Okay, first question today comes to us from Alvaro, who says, "Hi, Fried. By the way, I got the coolest idea for, never mind, I'll tell you later. Hey Fried, I've been practicing your ear training program for some time now, and I've transcribed a few records. Congratulations, very cool. How do I take my transcribing skill to the next level? What songs should I analyze next?" Honestly, I think the best way to incorporate this ear training thing into your daily life is to just do it whenever you listen to music. You know, anytime you hear a melody on the radio, or, you know, even if it's like a string melody or any sort of instruments. I even do this with like ringtones and stuff like that. I'm constantly like trying to figure out what's going on harmonically or melodically. I think that's really the best way. It's great that you're transcribing full songs, but honestly, the best way to train this is just like anytime you hear music, just for fun, just analyze it. Just figure out like, oh, that's a 5. Oh, that's a 3. That stuff is so useful, and it's a big part of, I think, why the artist series was like I was able to do the artist series because of that. I think because I listen to music this way, you know, and so saying stuff like Drake always uses the 4 in his melodies. That's just because that's the way I listen to music. That's one of the things I always do with music, is trying to figure out like what intervals are they singing, like what's the scale degree that they're singing on most of the time. And that's how I pick up on those things. It's not that I like really properly sit down and like go to the piano and try to figure out what, it's just here. It's just like my relative pitch. And that's what really helps me figure those things out. So that sounded very Canadian, didn't it? So the more that you do this on a regular basis, the easier and more natural this is going to become. So that's what I would recommend. Just honestly, anything you hear, just like analyze it. And for fun, it's going to be, in the beginning, this is going to be a little more challenging and maybe not as much fun, but that's what you want to go to. The goal is to make this a pastime activity for you. So you can just analyze on the fly. Next, we have a question from Jenny, who says, not strictly a songwriting question, but ... I've got my debut album launch gig next weekend, and I'm super nervous, 3 exclamation marks. Or is it 4? No, I think is it 4? Oh, man. I'm just realized, maybe it's my glasses, but it's difficult for me to see that. Interesting. This is also my first time putting on a gig myself. Sorry, Jenny, totally undermining the fact that you're doing your release show, which is way more interesting than how many exclamation marks you put in your sentence. This is also my first time putting on a gig myself. Any tips for performing original music for nerves or thoughts in general about putting on a performance? The thing is, honestly, the person that you should probably talk to is Jens, because he's like really good with that kind of stuff. And he has written and read, he knows a lot of stuff about stage fright. So if you want, get in contact with me via my email, I would say. Do Friedemann Findeisen at gmail.com. And I'll connect you up with Jens, because he's really good at that stuff. So if you're nervous, then this is something he can certainly help you with. In general, just like quickly, I think what always helps me is, I don't know, it's different for different people, right? But it's obviously all a mental thing. What always helped me with playing gigs that I was nervous about, or doing speaking engagements, or anything that I was like really nervous about, it was picturing myself through the eyes of the audience. And what I realized is, if I'm confident and just have a good time on stage, then that, like, imagining that from the audience, it just makes for a so much more pleasant experience than when someone comes on stage and they're nervous and they're insecure. And, I'm there to have fun. I'm just there to have a great night out. That's all I really want, as if I'm a listener there, right? If I go to a concert, I'm just hoping to have a good time. Like, I really don't want to see the person bomb. Like, generally, like, people that come to concerts don't want to see the artist bomb on stage. Like, they want them to succeed, because they want to have a good time. Like, if the artist bombs, they're having a bad time. And, that sounds maybe like I'm putting pressure on you, but to me, that's a really relieving kind of feeling to think about things like that. If I'm thinking like, hey, everyone wants this to be a great time, let's just have a good time together. If it's this kind of atmosphere that you're creating with whatever you're doing on stage, I think that's then your gold. Anything you do from there on is just an added bonus. So honestly, really, the most important thing is just have a good time. Just show people that you had a blast writing these songs, and go deep into the music. And so if you're really stressed, pick a song as the first song that's really energized, that's going to drain a little bit of power. So you have to focus, put the remaining power that you have into the music instead of fear or worries or stuff like that. And also fear out your fears. That's another really big thing, I think, is don't push it aside, but do this once every day before you go to your big concert. Before you have your big concert, sit down for like half an hour, not even be 5 minutes, maybe that's enough, depends on how you usually deal with that kind of stuff. Sit down just in complete silence and just imagine the worst possible way the concert could go, but go through with that imagination, like really face it. The thing is, if you're afraid of heights, the best way to conquer that is to actually seek out height and realize that it's an irrational fear. Now, with the concert, it's not something you can really train, because it's only going to be once. Like, you can't have several release concerts before next weekend. But what we can do, the brain can't really tell the difference between imagination and reality, or not as well. So what we want to do is just imagine it as vividly as possible. Imagine how it really, really fails, how everything goes completely wrong, right? and just go through with that. Do that every day. And when the final day comes, you realize, oh, everything is going pretty well. Like none of the horrible things that I imagined are happening. I guess it's going all right, So, yeah. So another thing that I want to say is, this is something called worry chains, which I think is a really interesting subject. Or Sorgenketten. I don't know what the English technical term for it is. I guess you would call it worry chains. So what happens here is, why do we worry at all? There's a difference between fear and worry, obviously, right? Worry is like being afraid of the future, which is a very different thing than actually being afraid of something now. So the thing is, why do we worry? Because we are pushing something away from us. So what happens is, when we worry about something, our fear gently increases. And what we do though, and so instead of feeling out that fear, which is the thing that would help us actually, is to embrace the fear, what we do is, before we reach the peak, we just jump to a different worry and then worry about that and then go up that ramp until we're afraid enough and afraid of being more afraid. Then we jump to another worry. And so we're chaining these different worries together, not really thinking any of them through, not really conquering any of our fears. But that's why we worry so much as human beings, is because it's a way to evade the necessity of feeling fear at some points in time. And so it's really a way to like weasel our way out of these situations. But what we have to do in order to break those chains and to overcome our fears is to embrace it fully and really imagine what the worst thing would be that could happen. And that is really what takes away that fear eventually. It's the same thing as being afraid of going bankrupt, or the fear of being left by someone. Imagine those things like really vividly and go through that fear, and it's going to become better and better every time that you do it. Okay, that was a long answer, but a very important one. Again, I really want to forward you to Jens, because he's the expert at this sort of thing. I don't do a lot of live gigs anymore, and never really have, honestly. Like I've played maybe like 80 gigs in my entire life, so I'm not the best person to ask about this. But I had a pretty good time on stage. So I wouldn't be too worried. What always helped me, again, was like play a really energetic song first. So I'm a little bit out of breath, and that just puts my focus all on the music and just lean into the music. It really helps, Don't think about yourself, think about the music, and just channel that as much as possible. That would be another way to look at it. Okay, next question comes to us from Aitor, who says, "Hi Friedemann, have you ever composed music for choir? What's the difference? What are some concerns and techniques that make you think of choir music, and how would you apply them to pop songs?" Okay. Concerns that make me think of choir music, or that choir music makes me think of? Okay, I guess that's your question. I have composed music for choir, but not much. I think I composed. I'm right now. I can only think of one piece of choir music that I wrote. I wrote like a ton of like classical counterpoint music, like 4-part stuff, which is technically choir music, like if you like really classical choir music. And then I just wrote one more, jazzy kind of piece of choir music, which you can listen to on my SoundCloud. It's super old. But yeah, so that's something I wrote. Okay, let me think about that. What's the difference? Really, honestly, it's a completely different beast. It's a completely different thing, because you're using the vocals to form harmony, right? So you don't just think of a melody in a horizontal line, but now you have to think about it vertically as well. What is this voice doing with this voice, and how is that creating a chord? Those kinds of things. That's kind of where the challenge comes in. Okay, so that would be first. You have to write melody lines for each individual character, for each individual, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, that makes sense to the singer. Generally, I wrote like that one choir piece I wanted to go all out, and I wrote something that's fairly challenging. And there's certainly musicians who've written very challenging choir pieces, like Benjamin Britten, for example, has written some very challenging stuff where you really have to like learn your part by heart, pretty much. And I've sang in choirs for jazz and modern classical music, And some of these parts are really quite challenging. So it's possible, but if you're looking for like a standard choir sound, so not something that's like super modern in terms of, modern classical music, of course, but more for like I don't know, what's that movie called? The one with the different pop choirs. Help me out, guys. What is it called? There was 3 parts of it. Pitch Perfect. Is that it? Pitch Perfect? I think that's it. So if you're looking for that kind of sound, really, the melodies in Pitch Perfect are just from the pop songs, right? The bass lines are pretty much just bass lines. They're just being sung by the bass in the choir, and then the middle voices usually form some kind of harmony, either through bop 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 bop, so through like eighth notes, like longer notes. They might do so. Sometimes the tenor might sing the harmony together with the bass, so they might form like a sort of chord. When the bass typically doesn't sing like a more rhythmical bass line, the tenor will sort of fall in line with the bass and create the chords, and then the alto can sing the melody in harmony. That's another thing that you could do. But generally, like, you're always looking for what are the chords and what is every note in the middle parts. So especially tenor and alto, what are those saying about the harmony? And again, as I said, like, you're thinking about this horizontally and vertically. And in terms of thinking about it horizontally, you want to make sure that the lines make sense. So even though this is not the top line and it's not the bass, like the melodies, even though they might be super simple, but you don't want to have a melody that goes da ba bo, like, you don't want to have like just so they hit the correct notes that you need for your chord. That's something you definitely don't want. You certainly like want to have melodies that just change stepwise. You want to have good voice leading, in other words. Also, and this goes, by the way, not just for choirs, but it goes for like brass sections, string sections, all that stuff as well. If you have a melody that, this is something, a keyword that is worth researching here is drop 2, drop 4, and drop 2/4. These are basically different kinds of voicings. Maybe I should explain that real quick. If I have a 4 chord, right? So root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. If I do a drop 2, what I'm doing is I'm taking wait, hold on, is it from the top? Jesus, now I'm confused. I think it's the 3rd, and we take the 3rd and pull that down. So that goes, so we have a wider voicing that looks kind of like this. If we have a drop 4, we take the 1, 2, 3, 4th and pull that down. Jesus, so we have the top melody goes to the bottom. That's another way to harmonize this. This is just different voicings, right? Or you have the 2/4 where, oh Jesus, I don't know if I can do this, where you take it out like this, and then the 2 and the 4 go at the bottom. This is a really nice wide voicing. That's a really great sounding voicing, especially, and this is why I'm talking about this, if the melody makes a huge gap. So here's what happens. If we want to keep the middle voices, and those are really the most challenging to write typically, because the bass, we need to write a bass line. This is something we've done as songwriters before. Melodies, typically we've done that too, but figuring out what to do with these 2 middle lines is sometimes a little bit tricky. If we have a situation where, say, the bass stays roughly the same, and by the way, something I should also mention before we talk about what I want to talk about, the bass can jump, like, that's fine. The basses are typically used to sing dum da dum da dum da dum. We're used to jumping around a lot more. So writing that stuff for bass is fine. Just for the 2 middle voices, you kind of want to keep the voice leading a little bit more close. With this one exception, that's what I wanted to talk about: the drop 2s and drop 4s and drop 2/4s. If the bass stays roughly in the same range, but we have a chord change, or just the melody goes way up, like we have like somewhere over the rainbow, right? You have like a really big jump in the melody. What we want to do with the middle voices is we don't want to stay close. We don't want to keep that same, like, proper voice leading, because what's going to happen is the melody is going to be way up there, and the rest of the choir is down here. So in those cases, what we want to do is, that's when we want to bring in a drop 2, drop 4, or a drop 2/4 voicing. So that basically what happens is, if the melody is like low, the voices are close together, and the bass is kind of independent of that. The bass can like really jump around a lot. It doesn't really move with the rest of the choir as much. The rest of the choir usually stays together. But if we have a high note, instead of this happening, so that the top note just jumps up and these stay down here, what we want to happen is this. We want the voicing to spread out, and this is what the drop 2, drop 4, and drop 2/4 voicings are used for. Again, even in those cases, the bass is pretty independent, and the bass pretty much does its own thing. The middle voices are there for the harmony, top voice is there for the melody. Another thing that comes to mind, especially if you're talking about jazz choirs, you don't want the top 2 voices ever to be away from each other less than a minor third. So you don't, I mean, having a 2 there, like a major 2, is okay in some cases, but it kind of messes up your melody a little bit. It doesn't sound as good. But having like a flat 9 between them, so like a minor third, a minor second, is definitely not something that you want. Yeah, I don't think I can think of any reasons why I want to do that other than to create the sense of like horror or weirdness or anything like that. So those are like a ton of things that just came up from the top of my head. If I, feel free to ask me this question again in like a slightly different way, and I'm sure I'll find some other things that I can think of. But yeah, I mean, choir music was a lot of fun to write, and I wrote, as I said, I wrote a lot of 4-part music and counterpoint, tonal harmony, that kind of stuff. I find that stuff really fascinating, and there's proper rules for doing that stuff as well, which I'm not going to go into right now because I don't think it really applies for pop music. Pop music, we are a lot more free as long as we stick to the rules that I just mentioned. But for classical music, there's like a ton of counterpoint going on and like proper ways to modulate and those kind of things, if you're interested in those. Honestly, I think it's something I'd have to read into again because I haven't done it in a really long time, but it is certainly interesting. Okay. Next, we have a question from Andrew who says, can you please help me understand what key and mode I'm in for last week's song, My God is an All-Consuming Fire, right? I started out doing a study in Dorian because I hadn't tackled it before. I read that E minor to A7 was a common Dorian progression. That's correct. So this is, if you were to express this, so this is the same notes, E minor 7 to A7. It uses the same notes as a D major scale. Right, so D, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. That's the D major scale, and that uses the same. That's the same notes that we use in E Dorian. All right, so it's just D major from the second degree onwards. It's the same notes. We just start, like our center is E minor instead of D major. So the chords are in the verse E minor 7, A7. Yes, that's just a Dorian progression. It's a 2/5, very typical for a Dorian. That's correct. Although it's a very very jazzy chord progression as well. Like it's not something I'm going to use in pop music, honestly. But yeah, it's a great Dorian progression because it gives us that raised 6. So the raised 6 in E minor, it would be a C sharp, and that we have in the A7 because that's the third of the A7. So that's why it sounds so Dorian, because we get that C sharp. We hear that C sharp very clearly in this chord progression. Then in the pre-chorus, you switch to C major 7, A minor 7, D with a... Okay, it just confused me that you put a slash there because I'm always thinking of slash chords when I see a D, when I see a slash. Okay, C major 7, A minor 7, D. That to me looks like we're probably in C major or in C Lydian, right? Yes, that should be correct. Yes, we're moving from a 4 to a 6 and then to a 5. Yeah, so it starts on a C major 7. So that should be correct. Yeah, because you're switching to D major. That will be the 5. Yeah. Okay, so you're switching from E Dorian to now C Lydian, which is also a really nice scale. So C Lydian would be C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, which means that you're using almost the same scale, but you're modulating to a slightly different scale. Well, we don't have a C sharp, but now we have a C. Am I saying the right thing? Yes, that should be correct. Yeah, because in the previous chord progression, E minor 7 to A7, you had a C sharp in the third, remember? And now we're using a C major 7, so that's the only note that has changed. We're still in almost the same scale. We just changed that C sharp to a C, and now we're in C Lydian because of that. Then we have the chorus GDA. Well, that should just be in D. Yes, that's just that. So we're in G Lydian now. We're starting on the 4, then going to the 1, and then to the 5. So that's G Lydian. And what's different about this one is the scale here would be G, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G. Yeah. So again, almost the same as before, but now the note we're changing again is a C sharp. So it's the same scale as D Dorian. It has the same notes. It's not the same scale. It has the same notes as as E Dorian from your verse. But we're starting on a different chord, and so this sounds like G Lydian. Then we have the bridge D G D A, which is in D major, so D Ionian, if you will. And this one here uses the same notes as the previous section, as the chorus. And then the melody notes are D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. Okay, let me think about that. We have an F sharp in all of the scales. Is that correct? Yes, yes, yes. So we have an F sharp. D, E should be fine. G, A are fine as well, and B is fine as well. Yeah, so you can sing those melodies over all of the different scales, because what really the only thing that really changes is like C goes to C sharp and goes back to C. That's really the only thing that changes. So as long as you're not singing a C, you can sing those 6 notes in any combination over those chord progressions. And if you are singing a C, just make sure that over the Dorian chord progressions, so that will be your verse and your chorus and your bridge, you sing a C sharp, and over your pre-chorus, you would sing a C. So if you were a jazz musician, then typically to show the audience that you understand the harmony that you're hearing, you would probably play a C in the pre-chorus, just to be like, I know that we changed this note to a C. I know that this is supposed to be a C neutral instead of a C sharp now. In rock music, like that all doesn't matter, but in jazz, it's generally something where we will play that note to show people that we get what's going on. Okay, I thought I was in E minor key in the verse. No, this is incorrect. You're in E Dorian. E minor is something else. E minor would have a lowered 6th degree. So that would be E, F sharp, G sharp, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. And in E Dorian, you have a C sharp. That's the difference. So when I chose to write the chorus with G on the 1 beat, on the downbeat, is that what you mean? On the first beat, on the downbeat is what you mean. I was using a minor verse to major chorus feel. Then I wrote the bridge, and D just sounded right to start on the 1 beat. And that is because you already changed to C Lydian, which means, hold on, the bridge. Oh, so the bridge is the second thing you wrote? Is that right? I mean, so the thing is, the D sounds so correct because the A7 from your verse perfectly leads to the D, right? The A7 is just a dominant that leads towards the D. So it makes total sense that if you wrote the verse first and then the bridge, those two connect really, really well, because again, A7 resolves into a D, because we have a C sharp that moves up to D, and we have a G that moves down to F sharp. Okay. Okay, so yeah, D just sounded right to start on the 1 beat, on the downbeat. The bridge sounded so striking in contrast that I thought I'd accidentally made a key or mode change, but when I checked the melody notes, it was in the same key. You have actually changed keys. You are correct. It's just that the melody notes work in both keys. If you were to sing a C, you would notice the difference. Oh, actually, would you? Hold on. No, you wouldn't. The verse and bridge are in the same key. Yes. Is that correct? Yes, they are. They're both in D major or E Dorian. No difference. The only section that has actually changed key is the pre-chorus, because there you have a C, and that's why you have a C major instead of a C sharp, whatever, and a C sharp minor, and an A minor 7 instead of an A major 7. Okay. So you have made a key change, but it's not in the bridge, it's in the pre-chorus. But when I checked the melody notes, I was in the same key. So again, that doesn't tell you necessarily that you are still in the same key, because the keys are often quite similar. Like if it just changed one note here, the rest of the melody can still totally work. And this is actually something I do quite a lot. If I do make a key change, then I'll just make sure that the melody sings notes that are in both keys. And so the transition will be really smooth, because if I can just repeat that same melody, and in the background the key changes, but it still works, I can still use those notes and they still work against the new key. They have different relationships to the notes, obviously, but it still works. That's a really smooth transition. It's a really good thing to do. The outro certainly wants to resolve to a D chord. Yes, I don't know what the outro is in this case, but an A7, yeah. I mean, if you end your song on an A7 or an A, and as in the case of the bridge or in the chorus, right? If you anything that you end on an A, because that sounds very dominant, it's gonna want to resolve to the D. Was I in D Dorian all along and just held back on using the D chord on the one beat until the bridge, or is E minor Dorian more correct? So there is no E minor Dorian. Dorian is a minor scale, just like, just terminology here. You just call it E Dorian, because if we talk about minor, generally the first thing we think about is Aeolian, is, regular minor, so to say. So, yeah. Okay. Hopefully that cleared up some questions that you had, and hopefully didn't give you a ton of new questions. I understand that it's a little bit difficult, but again, the pre-chorus is the only section in your song where you're actually changing keys. Well, the tonal center is certainly moving with the other sections as well, right? You're starting on a different chord, so it has a different feel to it. Like your verse is going to sound Dorian, and your chorus is going to sound Lydian, and your bridge is going to sound Ionian or major. Whereas your pre-chorus is also going to sound Lydian. So they all have a little bit of a different feel, but they're using the same, except for the pre-chorus, they're using the same melodic material, the same pitch, the same pitches. Okay, next question to us today comes to us from Miko, who says, I'm thinking about how to make some side income making music. Your experiences with making money for licensing sounded interesting. How could one get started with that? Try it out. I mean, honestly, the best way to do it probably would be to just write a ton of music that is just that would work under any kind of corporate video, under ads, under and you can write them for different purposes. But start with the finished product in mind. Like imagine you could even grab, like if you can find a trailer online or an ad that doesn't have music under it. Take that. Use that and write music under that to see if it works, because you'll really quickly realize if you are writing too much music, if there's too much melodies going on and things like that, because those tend to really distract from what is said in the video. That's what I would do, honestly. And you can write melodies to them. Just make sure that when you eventually do upload everything, you also provide a version that doesn't have vocals or a melody on them, so that they can be used for both a Coke ad that doesn't have vocals or text spoken over it, and ad for Mr. Clean. So there, honestly, just practicing this a ton before you get out there and put out your music, upload it to licensing sites, and there's a ton of them out there. Just type in music licensing online, and I'm sure you'll find like a ton of sites or music libraries, that kind of thing. And they're all looking for composers generally. Also, when you do this, find niches that are really like underpopulated, where not a lot of composers are writing music for it. It might take a little while before you start making money with that. Because they are so niche and not a lot of people will use that music. But if they come to that niche and you're only one of 4 people who's written music in that niche, that's generally a good thing, right? So, it might not happen as often, but if someone finds that niche, it's a good way to make money that way. Honestly, the most important thing is that your music is good, as always. But and that's something that you certainly have to train. It's not easy. It's quite different than writing a song, because in a song, you really want to say something. You want to have a message. And funny enough, like when I worked with directors for ads and for movies and for video games even, like a lot of them will say we want something neutral. And it's impossible to write neutral music, but we have to get kind of close, right? It's impossible. We can't write neutral music. It's absolutely impossible. But you want to find sounds that don't completely change the intent of whatever the commercial is saying. Like if a director has worked on this on a movie or a video game or an ad like for weeks, months, sometimes years, and they've put their heart and soul into it. They don't want to find they have a real intent with everything in the movie. Like everything has its place, and they put a lot of work into making sure that all the details are right. They don't want to have music that completely changes everything, right? They want music that just perfectly fits what they've already done. And for that to happen, having something that sounds a little bit neutral can be really useful, especially for licensing music, writing neutral music that just maybe sounds simple happy, or simple sad, or simple fast, or simple epic, or simple is really, really important. Don't compose something, write good background music. That's really a challenging job, at least for me. For me, it's always because in my system, it's so ingrained to use the addiction formula and to be attention grabbing and to do a lot and to tell a story. And in film music or ads or any sorts of most types of licensing music, that's not really your job. Your job is to write music that can go with any story, right? That's a really big difference. Okay. Next, we have a question from Nico. Feel free to ask me about this in the future again, by the way, because I know this is a big subject that we maybe don't talk enough about. Nico says, hi, Friedemann. How does a strange technique like a lisp with a de-esser, I guess, become so widespread in pop music? At first, I thought Julia Michaels really had a speech impediment. Is it a big producer introduces it and everyone else follows? In case of this lisp, is it to create some sort of an edge to a song that might otherwise be too perfect? Honestly, I mean, if you have that lisp kind of sound, like the shh, a little bit too much of that S, having that a little bit too loud, there's two reasons for it generally. One of them is the singer has an actual lisp, and in the case of Julia Michaels, she does sing some words in a slightly peculiar way. What's that song again of hers? Issues? Is that it? Issues. And in the chorus, she sings "Bask in the Glory," and it sounds like she sings "Bask in the Glory," and that's just how she sings it. I've seen her sing it live on Jimmy Fallon, I think, and that's just how she sings it. So there's one thing, and it makes the whole thing. I mean, I was a big fan of Cold, and they sing the word pain, prayern, and it's just like prayern. It's like, what is that? And you look it up in the lyrics and you're like, is that what he's saying? Pain? That's not at all what that word sounds like. And sometimes that adds a little bit to the charm, the charm of a vocalist if they do those kinds of things, and it can make it sound very interesting and very peculiar because of that. And it can go both ways. It can either be really awkward and weird, or it can make it really, really cool. I think in the case of Julia Michaels, I personally really like it. Now, that being said, I mean, the vocals today, they're just so compressed that you're going to get like these loud sibilants. And I mean, when I listen to Julia Michaels songs, yes, there could be a little bit more de-essing done to bring down the sibilants a little bit more. But, it's still fine. I don't know. I haven't noticed it to be used as a really sort of stylistic element. If that's true, I think that's interesting, because it's something that we generally shy away from. I mean, typically that's why we use de-essers, to bring down those sibilants, to have a more controlled sound. Because when we compress a signal, those sibilants, those kind of sounds, those get louder, disproportionately louder than everything else. And so those we have to treat with a de-esser to make them softer again, so they sound more natural. I mean, I don't know. It could just be like that they didn't care about it, I guess. If it's really a trend right now, then it's probably someone did it and everyone realized, hey, you know what? Those guys don't do it. Maybe I can get away with not doing it. But I doubt that this is a conscious trend decision, personally. I don't know. Would be interesting to hear some more examples. So if you have some, I'd be very interested in that, Nico. Okay, lastly, we have a question from Philip. Hey, Philip, how's it going? Welcome back. Hi, Friedemann. Long time. Sent you an email. Not sure if you got it. I did not. When did you send it? I can't check my emails that much right now because the Kickstarter, frankly, is eating up a lot of time. Yeah, so it's a little unfortunate, but no, I didn't see the email yet, Philip. I'm sorry. Look, I need somewhere to send you the premixes of my songs. They're almost ready. I'm releasing the 6 ones you know, and I would appreciate any comments you may have on the mixes before they go to Danny for mastering. Thanks a lot, man. Okay. All right. So, as I said, right now it's kind of busy, but so I can't make any promises. But you can send them to friedemannfindeisen@gmail.com. So that's just my full name, no dot, all low cap. Is that what you call it? Low, you know what I mean, at gmail.com. You'll figure it out. Yeah, send me this stuff there, and if I have time, I'll listen to it, okay? Because I am excited about your stuff, and I'd love to hear what you've done with the songs. Okay, that is the end of that. So let's move on to the feedback. Or should I say, Friedback. Okay, that was horrible. And I'll never do it again. That was a lie. I'll probably use that one. It's going to become a brand thing. Friedback. A friend of mine, Jenny, you know Jenny, right? Misspoke the other day. And she said Friedback instead of feedback. I thought that was hilarious. On fire! Okay. First track today comes to us from Alvaro, who says, "Hello, Fried. Track number 9 from my latest project called 24/7. I did not produce or mix anything on this project. All I did was write." Okay. So this is called Shopping. Cool, man. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like it. I mean, and you went with the structure of it all, so that's good. Like, there's a clear chorus here. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it. I think it's fine. It works. I think the ending is a little, it kind of peters out, and it doesn't feel like a real outro. And that might partially be because it just kind of ends mid sentence. It doesn't really end on like in like a cool way. Maybe you should have just like faded it out at the end or something like that. And maybe you could find something in terms of your, in terms of vocals that kind of brings out, like fades out the end a little bit nicer. Maybe you just keep rapping over the end as well with the chorus and then just let it fade out. Maybe that will be one thing. Or you add like some more like spoken word kind of thing to it at the end that kind of like goes over that while the music slowly goes out or something like that. I don't know. But that's, to me, like the only thing that doesn't really work yet. The rest works pretty good. Again, big thing is still the vocal quality, like the vocal production. It just sounds really thin, and I'd love to hear more of your vocals. You just sound far away. You sound really thin. You sound like if you have like those slapback delays, which are kind of radioed out. The main vocals don't sound that much different from those. So I'd rather hear you a little bit more up front. I don't know if it's your mic or if it's your processing, but either way, like you need to sound, you can sound fuller. You can sound like a more live being, because right now it just sounds, you sound tiny. You sound like you're coming from a tiny little speaker, and I want to feel like you're right in front of me. See what I mean? So yeah, hopefully you know what to do with that feedback. But if this is your processing, then the biggest issue is the way you're recording your vocals. Because if you're processing, you're probably trying to fix some stuff that went wrong in the recording. So get back to recording better, like figure out how to place yourself in relation to the microphone to get the best sound. Soundproof your room, or make sure that you record in a place that's relatively dry / has a really nice sound. It doesn't necessarily have to be dry. And if it's the microphone, well, get up at a microphone. I'm sorry, but it just sounds thin. It sounds like it was recorded on, like a gamer's headset or something like that. And that's really not doing your music any favors. So there. That sounded really harsh, but dude, it's the truth. That's this is the biggest thing that's holding you back right now. So get on it. Okay. Next we have a song from Kyle who says, here's a second look at Hidden Gentleman's track, Alaska. So let's check that out. Alaska. Have I heard this one? Oh man, I still love that part, dude. All right. Cool, man. Cool. So, yeah, dude, immediate gut reaction is like that section is still underrepresented in the song. I love that part, man. It's really good fun. And yeah, you have a beautiful falsetto, so it just works really well. And I wish it was we'd hear something like that a little bit earlier, you know, because honestly, the verses, the verse and the chorus are both fine. The verse, I think, has that second guitar in it that just detracts too much from the main vocals. It kind of comes in like at this one part here. That's great. That's really nice. Apart from that, I just kind of keep it out and just have the main guitar going like that. Because keep it simple, you know, it doesn't have to be more than that. Especially in the first verse, it bothered me. Maybe in the second one as well, but maybe that's just because I listened more to the guitar. It makes sense on its own. The vocals make sense on their own. Together, it's too much. It's two melodies at the same time, and we don't want that. If we have that, then they should absolutely work together, and they don't here. So that doesn't work for me. It's a little bit of an abrupt intro, isn't it? It feels so the intro feels really removed from the rest of the song. First of all, I mean, I like that stuff, you know, it's cool. It just feels it first of all, in terms of energy, it like sets a really high bar because it's like, you know, full drums and everything, and then we go like way back down for the verse, and it just takes a while before we get to that same level again. Really, it takes kind of till the bridge, honestly. Like the chorus isn't that high energy. The chorus, I think the bridge is the one that certainly has the nicest energy just because the vocals go that high. So it sets a really high bar, and then when the first chorus comes, it's slightly below that. It just feels like we're constantly jumping, like going up against a second kind of limit before then the bridge comes, and that kind of like, you know, kind of rounds that out. And it just takes a really long time before that happens, or whatever, like a second chorus or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to call it a bridge here for clarity's sake, because it happens after your second chorus. So that, I think, is an issue. I think I just strip down the intro way more. Also, I like have more of an intro. Right now, everyone just starts together, and I don't know. I think it has to start smaller somehow. Even if it was just bow bow bow, and then the guitar starts for the verse, something like that, you know. I would just have something that is less like an entire section. It feels like it's too much already for this intro. Like you're giving away so much musical material in that intro. I don't know. It's not sitting right with me. I can't quite put my finger on why that is. It's certainly like the energy is wrong. I'm sure about that. It feels like it's too much all at once. That's certainly another thing. Maybe it's the combination of those two, but it doesn't work. It's not introducing the verse nicely. It's too much of a different thing, and it doesn't connect up to what comes after it. So then we move into the verse. I think the verse is really sweet. Works really well. Again, that second guitar, too much, but that works really well. Then the chorus comes, and I like it, but it is a little, maybe slightly too outside of the box. There's moments that I really like in it, but then there's, you know, when you go to that really odd chord outside the key, it's maybe a little too early for that. It feels like, hey, I want a little bit more of the repetition, a little bit more of the singability before we jump into something so odd, you know. Like if you'd done that in bar 4 or only in the repetition of that motif, that would have worked way better for me. But as you do it right now, it feels like we just arrived in the chorus, and this is the part where we all want to sing and just relax, and then immediately you change into something, you know, that's kind of complicated, and that doesn't work. That doesn't really sit well with me. Then we have the second verse that works great. Second chorus is pretty much the same as the first, and then that bridge, man, that's really where things really start to shine, I think. And it has a really nice, it has a weird nostalgic 90s kind of feel to me. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because, you know, that's when I grew up, basically. But it has a really nice kind of vibe to it. So to me, that section has to play a bigger role in the song. To me, that it could even be the chorus. I personally, I think I'd cut out the chorus you have right now. Maybe use it as would it work as a bridge? Let me check. Well, you'd probably have to rewrite it a little bit. I don't know. To me, that's not as strong as the whatever bridge, second chorus, whatever it is. To me, that's just the stronger section. And I wonder, like, if we go straight into that from the verse. Okay, so. I like that better. I do think there needs to be a chorus before that. I think this is a chorus continued, or a second half of the chorus, but it's not this chorus. They don't connect well enough. I think what you should do is, personally, like if I'm being harsh, I'd say kill the chorus, write a new chorus, and start maybe. Hold on, let me think. Use the same chords, use pretty much the same music as the second chorus that we have here, and write a different melody to it that then connects really nicely into this. That's what I would do, honestly, because I think just keep the chords the same so it feels more like one chorus, and then that's the second half of it with the falsetto. I think that would be so great. I think that could work really beautifully. But keep the chords the same so that you have that coherency over those two choruses, and so that the melody can kind of do the same thing a little bit more before we change things up again. You know what I mean? We don't need those complex chords, and I don't think we need them in the chorus especially. Like, I use some weird chords for sure on the Canoid record, but first of all, that's a grungy metal record, so that's a slightly different thing first of all. But also, when I use it, the moment I use those chords is quite different than here, and I usually use it on like the fourth chord, in like a less prominent position. Like when we think we know where the harmony is going to go, when we think it's going to revolve, that's when I like to change things up a little bit. But those are subtle moments. Like, it's just one chord in the chord progression, then I go back to something that's a little bit more common. Or I'll use those chords like as if I'm changing to a new chord progression, I'll just start on a really weird chord or something like that. That's a different thing. Then if you start a new thing, then that's totally possible. But in the middle of a section, I don't know. I'm really hesitant to say that works for me. And I think it really doesn't. I might have to listen to it a couple more times, but I mean, you guys sent this song in, and I'm still not really used to it. And honestly, up until that bridge, I wasn't quite sure if I had heard the song before. And yeah, so if I got to be honest with you, like, the bridge is the one part where it's like, oh yeah, I've heard this before, I know that. The rest was kind of a little bit underwhelming, but not that it's bad at all. I think the verses work really well. I think they're really functional. I think they're really good. They're building really nicely. Don't get me wrong at all. I just tend to not remember verses in the first place. I just think the chorus didn't have it. Like, for me, like, I didn't go, oh yeah, that's that song. I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like something that maybe I've heard, but I wasn't quite sure. And then that bridge came. I was like, oh yeah, that's okay. I remember that for sure. So make that a bigger deal. I'd expand that, turn that into the first half of the chorus as well, and just find a different melody for that doesn't go into falsetto yet, so that when that falsetto comes, it's just, pure magic. All right, so those are my 2 cents. Am I frozen? Because I feel like I am. Nope, I don't think I am. I'm just frozen. Frozen in time. Nope, I am frozen. Oh, and I'm unfrozen. That's weird. This has never happened before. Come on, you idiot. I'm just watching myself here on the live stream. Come on. Do the dance. Do the dance. Do the dance. There we are. Okay, we're unfrozen. Good. So that's that. Again, guys, I love your sound. I'm a big fan of Hidden Gentlemen, so take it all with a grain of salt. I like your stuff, really. That's all I really wanted to say. I think there's some great stuff in your songs. I just wish they were placed a little bit better so that I can just enjoy the songs from the start, and it doesn't take me a while. Like, I don't have to do some digging to get to the great stuff. Okay. Luigi says, so I think this was one of the first track I sent to you back in the Feedback Friday days. Jesus Christ, man. That's like ages ago already. Reworked it with another writer who thought it would be a good track to pitch for a Japanese boy band. Okay, cool. I can see that though, honestly. Like, I remember your early stuff vaguely. I remember it was like punk rock and it was a little over the top. So that would probably make sense. I'm excited to hear this one, man. So unfortunately, Dropbox link, so I can't share the screen with you, but let's check it out. I remember this, man. Oh, I remember this one. That's cool. Or no, more like this, right? Yeah. Cool, man. Some good melodies in here. Yeah, I like it, man. It's got a really nice bouncy kind of feel to it. I like the danceability of the chorus. That's really cool. The melodies, all that stuff really works for me really well. It's got a really nice vibe to it. Really nice vibe to it. It made me smile in a lot of places in a good way. Like, I wasn't laughing at your song. I just really generally had a good time listening to it. I think what strikes me as a little bit odd maybe is the do do re do, you know, that I don't know. Maybe I'm just not the biggest fan of those sawtooth synths in this kind of music. If we're gonna use it, it's probably in a nostalgic way, and I feel like that in some parts it works, in others it doesn't quite yet. I think, and I think in those instrumental sections after the chorus, I get your idea, and I think it can work, but it needs to. It doesn't work quite yet. Let me listen to it one more time. Why is that not working? I think it might just be because the production isn't fat enough, honestly. I think if this was like, if it sounded more confident, the music sounded more confident and not like it was holding back, I think it would work a lot better. Because I think in terms of the writing, there's nothing really wrong with this. It's just that it doesn't blow me away in terms of sound. Like after the chorus, which had like the really cool vocals, and the vocals deliver a lot of punch, that section just feels like, everyone's just kind of leaning back now. Oh, he's done his thing, so let's just wait for the verse to start again. And it's not really like, it's not really the pumping action that you want to have here. So I think it's just a production thing, and honestly, that's most of the comments that I would have to make are production. The outro is a little weird, a little sketchy. There's some parts where I think you could linger on the tension a little bit longer before you jump into the next section. Specifically, second verse leading into second chorus. I think you could spend a little more time there on the last bar, and maybe put in like a 2/4 or maybe even a 4/4, and then go into the chorus. I think the first chorus comes in completely surprisingly. There needs to be some kind of fill before that. Same with the second chorus, actually. I think the pre-choruses need a little bit of a boost. I don't know what's happening here, but there just needs to be a little more, or a little bit more contrast musically to what came before. I really like the vocals. I really like what's going on there. It's just that the music doesn't go with that enough, I think, and it's not building enough tension towards the chorus, and just the it's okay in the second verse. I'm not sure if you do the same thing in the first verse. It's okay. It's better than nothing, but still the chorus comes in kind of unexpected. So I think honestly, you could probably start every chorus with a hit, like "Bow and I'm in love with the girl next door," whoa, and then you go back in. Just so you have a little bit more of a punch at the beginning of your chorus, because like the "Dude, I am in love with the girl next door," it's a good melody. I just feel like musically it's not giving it enough punch. It just feels like it kind of continues on what came before it. Also, I kind of want to see guitars for this, but it doesn't have to be like distorted guitars. Like I know you want to keep this more like shut up and dancey. I don't know, but some guitars would certainly be nice for this. Like they could be like just a little bit of twang, a little bit of distortion, but not too much. Like not like full on punk rock guitars. Just a little bit of, even if it was just like, like a sort of a funky thing in the chorus, I think they could already do some wonders to add a little bit more realism into this whole thing. Because what's really missing is, apart from your vocals, which again I think are really good, what's really missing is the energy, and that's partly production, as I said. Like it's not blowing me away in that regard, but it's also performance, and I kind of want to hear a little bit more humanity, a little bit more energy, and I mean just like human energy. But other than that, man, I think you got a cool song here. I think it's good fun. It reminded me of there's this song from, it's Grease, I think, right? There's a song in the musical Grease that kind of, this reminds me so much of that. What's the songs from Grease? Hold on, Grease songs. What is the most famous song from Grease? You're the One I Want. Is that the one? You're the one I want. Is that the one? You're the one that I want. Is that the one? Might be. I think it's Grease. I'm pretty sure. Or is it Summer Nights? Summer Nights. That's the one I'm in. I'm pretty sure it's this one. Let me just check the lyrics for it. But I'm pretty sure it's that one. Summer Nights lyrics. Summer lovin' had me a blast. Summer lovin' happened so fast. That's kind of what it reminds me of, honestly. And it's also the music in it. It just kind of reminds me of that. Again, that's why it's got this nostalgic thing going for me. Maybe that's why. I know that's not the 90s, but still, that's kind of what it reminded me of, like 100%. And even back then, I think, even when I listened to it for the first time, I must have had that instant reaction to it. I'm sure I said something along the lines of, this sounds like Greece. Okay, lastly for today, we have one more song by Grimaud, who says, "Hi man, here's I'll Be Yours, the video." Oh, I'm excited. Hope you like puppies. I do like puppies. Who doesn't like puppies? All right, let's check that one out. Hold on, you guys. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Let me see. I should be able to. How do I? Okay, let's just do it like that. Hold on. I can do this. It's not rocket science. Nope, that's not right. Nope. How do I? Shoot. Ah! And it's also straight up in my face. Come on, never hide the talent. The talent. Let's be real here for a sec. Jesus Christ, how the... Ah, there we go. I found it. You have to hold Alt. That makes total sense. Okay. Let me just bring that up, and then I'll scale it down so we can still see the talent. Okay, here we are, guys. Here we are. That's hilarious.
Tell me that my honesty is a natural asset rather than a vice, and that my words are medicine for you. Please go back to common sense. Tell me that the weather in your head will pass, and that my understanding of you will improve once and for all. I won't be the idiot. I will be yours. I will be yours.
Oh yeah, I like this, man. This is cool.
When the sun will go down, and our hopes all that night.
This is so incubus, man. I love it.
Tell me that it was a dream when you're giving birth to all this madness. You're freer when you don't ask me for more advice to be your own hero. I will be yours. I will be yours. When the sun will go down, and our hopes all that night.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Do anything? You're not gonna talk to him at all?
That's awesome. What did he say? What? I didn't understand the last thing they said. Dude, that is hilarious. I love it. This is really great. I love it. I love it. It's completely whack. It's completely crazy, and I love it. I think it works really, really well with the music that you're making. I think this is really going in a really, really great direction. I love how insane it is, and I love the Ewoks. I love the spinning stuff, and I really love it. It made me laugh a couple of times. I think it's really great. A couple of pointers though. I think you have to like redo a couple of scenes in this for a very specific reason. Some things here I think are too look maybe a little bit too nice, and sometimes you maybe have to like so for example, the text, right? The "I'll be yours" looks too clean. It looks too pretty. I think if you went for like, have you ever seen the "Between Two Ferns" with Zach Galifianakis? They're so good at making sure that it looks professional, that you can tell it's meant that way. But then they're using fonts like the 8-bit font and stuff like that to make sure that people understand like they're messing with you, like this is not real, like they're not seriously making a bad program. And I think it needs a little more of that. So some of the things are a little too professional, and then I also think I think you have to, at least in some scenes, doesn't have, like, you don't have to reshoot everything for sure, but in some scenes I think you have to dress up a little bit crazier, like, I don't know, wear something a little bit more out there. There's some scenes that really work for me that I think are really hilarious, that work so well. Like the "Are you not gonna say anything?" No, I think that is hilarious. Just the way you stand next to your dog is hilarious. I love that part. And then there's other scenes, and also when you're lying on your floor, like I think that works really well. I think that's really crazy and unique and different, and it speaks to your creative mind. But and just the effects, the shitty effects, I think I love it. I think it's really great. I think it works really well with your music. And I don't have to say that I really like the song, because I already told you when we met in person, or on Skype rather. Again, yeah, make sure that people get that you're not serious about this. Make sure that people understand that this isn't serious, and this is a thin line that you have to walk, and be very, very careful with that, because this stuff can really backfire. Like, you want people to know that you're not completely serious about this. I don't know why, but I just had to think of Remy Lavar. Is that his name? Something like that. He's really good at that stuff. Remy Lav. What was this called? He did the. Okay, Remy Gaillard, that's his name, right? I'm sure you know him. He also did some really crappy stuff. Like there's one where he dressed up as a snail and went on the highway. That was just really insane, and just like walking really slowly on the highway in this really weird snail costume, just trolling people, and there was like 1,000 cars parked behind him, all honking. That was very brave, very stupid, and very hilarious. And you need a little bit more of that, I think. A little more of the... It doesn't have to be like completely crazy costumes, but a little bit more flair. I don't know if you've ever seen Office Space. I'm full of references today. But they have to have their whatever, Jennifer Aniston's role. She works as a waiter, and she works in this crazy restaurant, and she's told to have more flares, to put more flares on her vest. She has to have like buttons and whatever, all that sort of stuff. And I think you need more flares, man. And you need more of that kind of stuff. You need clothes. You need clothes that are a little bit funnier. And you can write, like, if you want to keep it normal, if you want to be still a normal guy, you can do that. But then find clothes that with your body type or with your facial expressions just look a little bit funny. And you got that a little bit with the hoodie, but it's not quite enough, I think. I think you need to be a little bit more clear with your ridiculousness so that people are on your side. You want people laughing at the video for sure. Like, it's because it is crappy, and that's the charm of it. That's the fun of it, right? But you also don't want them to think that you're an idiot, right? So you have to dress up as an idiot so they know that you're not serious about this. That you know that you're this creative mind that's just completely exploded, right? That's kind of what we want to go for here. So that was my one big criticism, my feedback. I'm gonna coin this. This is my new favorite thing. The other piece of feedback would be to when we see your lips move, they should move to the song, and that's really important. Like, so it doesn't just seem like found footage that you cut together. Like, we definitely want to see you sing the lyrics in some points of the song. Like, if your lips are moving, they should sing the song and not say anything else. Those would be my two pieces of feedback. And that's about it, man. Otherwise, I really love it. I think, again, the song is really cool. It's got really those Incubus vibes. And yeah, man, the video is a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun. I think you did some really cool stuff here. Honestly, it takes maybe a tad too long to really get going. In the beginning, it took me a while to get into it. And I don't know why that is. I'd have to watch it again for that. But the beginning was a little slow. And then once it's really started going, I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And I was really rooting for you. Just, again, I know you now, and this is what we discussed in terms of like a creative approach to your music videos. I think you as a person now have to get a little bit more crazy as well. Not just your editing, but you as well. And make sure that you're lip syncing with the music whenever you are moving your lips. And that's pretty much it. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat. No, looks like we don't. Felipe jumped on and said, you have to just choose songs for me. Okay, I think that should be fine probably. Maybe I can check it Monday morning. It's a lot of work right now, man. I'm going to try, honestly. Okay. But that's about it, folks. I think we heard some really great songs today. I'm really happy with how everything is going with you guys. And I've seen some really nice progress. So keep on going. Keep on doing what you're doing, folks. And I shall see you again next week, which is going to be a public live stream, by the way. So next week, present your best stuff, or present the stuff that you like. Ask some good questions. Aitor, I'm counting on you. Like, next week has got to be a good show. Not as shoddy as this one, because this one was, face it, horrible. So next week better be good, okay? Because we're doing this one on the live channel, on the big channel, not on the live channel, on the Holistic Songwriting channel. Kind of to promote the Songwriting Decks, of course, but then it's just going to be a regular live stream. So there's that, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love you all. Take care, and bye.